They're looking at two parties. One's trying to do a bunch of funny business. One's trying to keep the doors open. And right now, I don't think the funny business side is winning in the eyes of the American people.
Well, I just want to correct something. Scott, you know how much I respect you, but let's be honest here.
I don't need to be corrected, and I don't need to be told I'm dishonest.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to yesterday's news channel where we watch CNN so you don't have to. Earlier today, Scott Jennings was on The Source with Caitlin Collins with a liberal covering the fight over the government shutdown as midnight deadline approached. You're about to see Scott Jennings explain exactly who's really responsible for this mess and why the spin you're hearing from Democrats and their friends in the media doesn't line up with reality. Anyway, let's watch Scott Jennings expose the lies of two sad Democrat puppets. Let's go.
Our political power players, Scott Jennings and Karen Finney, are here.
Well, the president did try to bring them into the room the other day, and they wouldn't budge. I mean, look, the facts here are pretty simple. The Republican Party has put on the floor and voted for a clean, continuing resolution, no changes. These are Biden budget numbers, by the way, and numbers that Democrats have voted for 13 times. Nothing up our sleeves here, Caitlin. They're trying to keep the government open long enough to negotiate things like the health care issue, which you were just debating, which I actually think maybe Republicans will wind up dealing on that. But they're not going to do it under duress, and they're not going to do it under threat of rolling back all the Medicaid reforms that were done this summer. So I think President Trump tried to bring the Democrats in, and at the end of the day, I think the American people know here they're looking at two parties. One's trying to do a bunch of funny business. One's trying to keep the doors open. And right now, I don't think the funny business side is winning in the eyes of the American people.
Well, I just want to correct something. Scott, you know how much I respect you, but let's be honest here.
I don't need to be corrected, and I don't need to be told I'm dishonest, Karen. But by all means, go ahead. We're stunned. I'll just be honest with you. We're stunned. I mean, the Democratic constituencies are principally immigration populations and government workers. This is what your party relies on, and you've closed shop on government in Washington, D.C., and eventually they're going to get tired of it. There is no reason this government cannot be left open.
Americans who voted for Kamala Harris were all immigrants?
No, I'm saying
that's not true.
I'm saying I'm listening to Democratic arguments about most policy issues, and I'm looking at Democratic energy, and it mostly has to do with things to do with immigrants, illegal and some legal, and things to do with government bureaucrats. And right now, you're putting one of your constituencies out of business.
Can I say one thing, which is that people who are in the country illegally cannot get these subsidies
Sure
that we're
they
talking about.
Sure they can.
No, they can't.
No,
Sure
they can't.
It's
federal law, Scott,
who do you
Scott,
think pays when they go to the emergency room? It's the Medicaid
Scott,
emergency program.
Going to the emergency room is not getting an Obamacare subsidy.
You guys are conflating. You guys are conflating these issues. You're conflating these issues.
And you're being dishonest with
the subsidies are a separate issue. The Medicaid program
unpopular.
cuts are a different thing.
Right, but I'm talking
Medicaid
about subsidies.
and the Obamacare stuff are two different issues. And I said the subsidies may get negotiated over time. But what Democrats want to do is roll back what the Republican Medicaid reforms were. They want, look, I don't understand why everybody's so mad. For time immemorial, Democrats have argued that it's good. It's good for illegal immigrants to get Medicaid. Every candidate for president in 2020 raised their hand for it. In the big, beautiful bill debate, they argued it was good policy. I can't believe there's an about-face in the Democratic Party on it today.
Hold on. I got a question for Karen, but Scott, I will say, people who are in the country illegally also can't get Medicaid.
Sure they can. Sure they can.
They can't get Medicaid.
They also can't register to vote. They also can't register to vote, but we just found one in Maryland who was running the Des Moines school system.
Oh my God, one!
I mean, I'm telling you, you guys say these things can't happen, and then they happen.
Scott, but I'm just saying it's federal law. And
you can run cover for it if you want, but they do get federal tax money. They get federal tax money. Ask Jake, he had it on today.
In the intro, when I described Caitlin Collins and the other panelists as two sad Democrat puppets, I was spot on, wasn't I? Goodness gracious. I doubt many of you were surprised to hear what the two Democrats in that clip were claiming, because we've seen it 100 times. It's just straight out of their playbook. We'll make a mess and then blame it on the Republicans. By the time this video is over, you will understand why I say with such conviction that is literally the opposite of how this thing played out. In September, the Republican-led House actually passed a clean continuing resolution that just kept the government open. It wasn't loaded up with massive cuts or culture war riders, just a straightforward bill to extend funding and buy time for a bigger deal. But when it got to the Senate, Democrats blocked it. They did, once again, exactly what Democrats do. They demanded more. Things like extending Obamacare subsidies and undoing Republican cuts that were just made in the big, beautiful bill. In other words, Republicans said, Let's keep the lights on and fight over policy later. While Democrats said, not unless we get our way right now. That is the reason our government is shut down. Despite all the media spin, the record shows the House Republicans did their job to prevent it, and Democrats in the Senate chose to let the shutdown happen. I want to be clear on one more thing, too. There was absolutely no reason that this had to happen. None. We'll get right back to the clip, but just let me point out one more thing. Beyond the effects on the American people and the people who work in government, this was just bad politics by the Democrats. They have zero leverage. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So when the Democrats blocked that clean CR in the Senate, all they really did was hand Republicans the high ground. Now, I don't think the average American's paying attention to this, but those that do can very easily see who passed a bill to keep the lights on and who stood in the way. The Democrats very stupidly tried to play tough without the numbers to back it up. And now they own a shutdown, even though they'll try to tell you differently, that they're not going to be able to spin away. Remember in that conversation when I think it was Caitlin Collins said, illegal immigrants don't receive federal funds? It just doesn't sound right to me. I got a couple clips. Let's refresh our memories.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
It's against
reimbursements to hospitals, some of which does go to undocumented immigrants using healthcare there to those hospitals.
The amount of money that actually is going towards people who are undocumented is such a small portion of the Medicaid cuts or the Affordable Care Act.
Support giving illegal immigrants taxpayer-funded health care, yes or no?
We support giving money, support.
The answer is yes. You expanded health care access in 2024
Yes, I did.
under Medicaid.
For senior citizens.
Governor, after the election, you said,
I would do it all
reclaiming
over
my
again.
time. Governor.
It seems to me there was a stark contrast between what Caitlin Collins said about illegal immigrants receiving federal funds and then what every single one of their politicians said. I don't know. You guys let me know. Am I wrong? So I don't know, and I don't want to know what happens with Democrats behind closed doors, but I feel very confident in saying that Democrats never had any intention of keeping the government open. How do I know? Just listen to their demands. They were furious about cuts that came out of two big Republican wins earlier this year. The One Big Beautiful Bill, which trimmed Medicaid growth, foreign aid, public broadcasting, and climate funding. And then, of course, the Rescission Act, which clawed back wasteful spending that had already been approved. Instead of saying, yeah, let's have a constructive negotiation later, Democrats decided to make massive asks right now. Demands, again, in my opinion, I don't have evidence of this, but I'm pretty sure they knew Republicans would never agree to. If they actually cared about the American people, they would have signed off on the clean CR and then used the extra time to make the case in a real debate. Of course, they didn't because they're retarded. I think they wanted this shutdown because they thought it would hurt Republicans politically. The problem is, most Americans aren't following every detail. A shutdown doesn't really change daily life for the average family. But for those voters that are paying attention, Democrats look like petulant children blocking a bipartisan solution just to score points against Trump. And we all know voters have always really responded positively to that. It's what they do. It's political theater. And it shows again that Democrats care more about playing games than governing. And more important than that, than the people that they govern. But what do you guys think? Am I nuts? Do you think Democrats actually wanted this shutdown to happen? Or were they just playing games to squeeze Republicans? Let me know in the comments. And I've said this before, but people might be newer. I'll say it again. I genuinely believe that we are building the best community in the conservative commentary space on YouTube. And I'm biased, and I suppose that's subjective, but I'd actually argue all of YouTube. I feel blessed to be able to interact with all of you. It's awesome. Other than that, guys, put God first every single day. I'll see you guys.